Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Imagine hiring a brilliant new assistant who works for, well, mere pennies an hour. And they can read an entire library of technical manuals in seconds.
Right, but then imagine that same assistant confidently lies to your face 84% of the time.
Yeah, leaving you to clean up the mess before your boss finds out. I mean, Could you keep them on the payroll?
Probably not.
Right. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a massive, sudden shift in the artificial intelligence industry and how this global race to the bottom in pricing is fundamentally altering the software you use at work every single day.
It's completely rewriting the rules.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, welcome to Connecting the Dots, broadcasting daily from Snarful Solutions Group in Sacramento, California. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan.
So today is Monday, August 3rd, 2026. And before we get into this AI price war, let's get you caught up on what's happening outside your window and, in your portfolio.
Yes, let's start with the weather.
For everyone listening locally in Sacramento, please stay hydrated today. It is going to be a brutal scorcher.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We're looking at a high of 103 degrees Fahrenheit with incredibly light winds, just like 1 to 5 miles per hour, offering almost zero relief.
And nationally, it's a remarkably busy weather day, too. There are currently 365 active U.S. weather alerts, with 176 of those tracking over land.
There's a lot of alerts.
It is. So wherever you are tuning in from today, check weather.gov for your local details.
Shifting over to the financial markets, it looks like a solid start to the week, largely driven by, the tech sector we're about to dissect.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the Dow Jones took a healthy jump, up 250 points. That's a gain of 0.48% to close at 52,485.03.
And the S&P 500 mirrored that trajectory, moving up 27.59 points, or 0.37%, closing at 7,489.72.
The crypto markets, however, didn't really share the enthusiasm. Bitcoin took a slight dip, down about $703, which is a drop of 1.11%, landing at 62,793.40.
Right, so a bit of a mixed bag there.
Definitely. And just a quick wrap-up from yesterday's baseball action. It was a pretty tough weekend for Northern California bats.
No, rough one.
Yeah, the SF Giants lost a tight one to the San Diego Padres 4-5, with Griffin Canning taking the win for San Diego. And the Athletics had a brutal outing against the Detroit Tigers, getting shut out completely, 0-11. Kiter Montero took the win on the mound there.
Ouch. Yeah, it's rough.
But hey, let's bring our focus back to the tech sector because the narrative unfolding today is just wild.
It really is. We are tracing a storyline that moves from this staggering high-end release by a global titan to an ultra-cheap but heavily flawed model from a startup.
And it all culminates in a global dynamic that is just squeezing Silicon Valley's monopoly. Let's unpack this.
Absolutely.
Today's episode is brought to you by Strong Coffee, the premium instant coffee that tastes like a traditional brew but is packed with 15 grams of protein, MCTs, and adaptogens like ashwagandha. Get clean, sustained energy without the jitters. Use promo code SNARFUL for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com.
So to understand the sheer scale of the disruption happening this morning, we really have to start with Alibaba. They just dropped what can only be described as a hammer on the industry with their newest model, Qwen 3.8 Max.
And the baseline numbers on this are almost difficult to process, honestly. I mean, it is a 2.4 trillion parameter model.
Yeah, at 2.4 trillion parameters, we aren't just talking about a minor iterative upgrade. That is an architecture so vast that running it traditionally would just melt server farm.
Right, and bankrupt whoever flipped the power switch. The sheer compute required to process data through that many neural connections is astronomical.
Exactly. Which is why the underlying mechanism of Qwen 3.8 Max is so crucial. It relies on a mixture of experts' architecture.
Okay, break that down for us.
So instead of forcing every single piece of data through all 2.4 trillion parameters, the system acts like a highly efficient traffic cop.
Interesting.
It analyzes the incoming prompt and routes it only to the specific subnetworks or experts best suited to answer it.
Got it.
So at any given moment during inference, it is only actively using about 95 billion parameters.
Wow, okay. So it maintains the vast, comprehensive knowledge base of a 2 trillion parameter system, but it operates with the agility and really the cost efficiency of a much smaller one.
Exactly. And that efficiency carries over into its context window, which is sitting at 1 million tokens.
Which is roughly 750,000 words, right?
Yeah, about that.
Think about the practical application of that for a moment. You no longer have to feed an AI small chunks of information and just hope it remembers the context.
Right, you could upload the entire historical code base of an enterprise app.
Cross-reference it with a dozen dense corporate training manuals, and throw in a year's worth of financial reports all in one single prompt. It analyzes all of it simultaneously without losing the plot.
And the benchmark testing proves it isn't just bloated with data, It is exceptionally capable.
Right, like Alibaba's internal testing, backed by crowdsourced leaderboards like Arena.ai, shows Qwen 3.8 Max going toe-to-toe with the absolute best closed models coming out of U.S. frontier labs.
It is consistently rivaling Anthropic's flagship Fable 5. And in several complex reasoning and coding benchmarks, it actually pulls ahead.
Okay, so when I see a model beating Fable 5, my immediate assumption is that it comes with an astronomical enterprise price tag.
Oh, but here is the kicker that sent Alibaba's stock ticker BABA jumping 4.73% to $128.03 this morning.
It is incredibly cheap.
Unbelievably so. We are talking $2 per $1 million input tokens and $6 per 1 million output tokens.
Wow.
And beyond the pricing, they are releasing the open weights next week.
Wait, open weights? That fundamentally changes the landscape.
It really does. Developers are no longer forced to rent access to intelligence through an API locked behind a corporate firewall.
Right, so Alibaba is just handing over the actual adjustable numerical values of the neural network. You can download it, integrate it natively into your hardware, and tailor it specifically to your proprietary data.
Exactly. And Alibaba is already demonstrating what this looks like for the working professional through their QwenWork platform.
Yeah, this extends way beyond a conversational chatbot generating emails. It's ingesting incredibly dense documents, converting 2D architectural floor plans into fully explorable 3D visualizations, and even generating interactive educational tools on the fly.
But the most compelling demonstration of its capability is an autonomous coding project they dubbed Oh My Cly.
Oh, this was wild.
Right. Alibaba set the model loose on this software development project, and it ran independently for 16 days.
16 days.
No human oversight, no developers stepping in to fix loops.
A 16-day autonomous loop is staggering. It didn't just write a script and stop. It actively read user bug reports, generated the necessary code to fix them, built its own testing environments.
Evaluated the outcomes.
Yeah, and completed over 400 separate commits. It even managed 33 different GPU training runs completely on its own.
It forces a complete reevaluation of enterprise software budgets. I mean, if a model this sophisticated is available at these price points, complex multi-day automation isn't just for Fortune 50 companies anymore.
No, it becomes accessible to mid-size agencies and small startups. This is like hiring an entire department of highly skilled interns who can read an entire television series script in 3 seconds, and they work for pennies.
Exactly. You log off on a Friday, and your product development cycle just hums along seamlessly in the background for 2 weeks.
But if Alibaba proves that elite AI can be cheap, it raises a rather dangerous question for enterprise budgets.
What's that?
Well, if cheap is good, is practically free even better? Because moving on to our next story, this exposes a massive blind spot in how we measure the value of software.
Right. So DeepSeek, a prominent Chinese AI startup, just sent a shockwave through the industry by dropping their V4 Flash model.
And the pricing structure is almost difficult to believe. DeepSeek V4 Flash costs roughly 0.03 cents per benchmark test.
Zeros and 3 cents.
Yeah. And to give you some context on just how aggressive that is, Anthropic's top-tier Fable 5 costs $3.15 per benchmark test.
So DeepSeek is operating at 105 times cheaper.
Exactly. Their input costs are a microscopic 0.14 per million tokens.
On paper, it looks like a miracle for CFOs looking to slash their tech budgets, especially when you look at the raw scores.
Right.
According to the research firm Artificial Analysis, V4 Flash scored a 50 on the intelligence index.
Which places it in a dead heat with Google's Gemini 3.6 Flash.
Yeah, a model tying a major Google release for pennies on the dollar.
Okay, but let's look closer at this. If a model is 105 times cheaper, what's the catch? Is it just a confident liar?
It is an incredible confident liar.
Of course it is.
When Artificial Analysis ran V4 Flash through practical everyday workplace scenarios using their AA Omniscience benchmark, the illusion of value completely collapsed.
Okay.
V4 Flash possesses a dismal 37% accuracy rate.
37%, which means the vast majority of the time, it is failing at the core task you assigned it.
Yeah. And it gets worse. It carries a staggering 84% hallucination rate.
84%. Let's really think about the mechanics of why that happens. When a model is compressed and optimized this heavily to run cheaply, it lacks the deep, complex reasoning pathways of larger models, right? It takes cognitive shortcuts.
Exactly. It isn't actually reasoning through your prompt. It is just statistically guessing the most likely next word based on surface-level patterns.
Which leads to it fabricating entire data sets out of thin air.
And this highlights the hidden human cost of ultra-cheat AI.
Right.
The true price of software isn't just the invoice you get from the vendor. It includes the human labor required to manage, verify, and ultimately fix the machine's output.
Yeah, if corporate leadership switches to an ultra-cheap model like V4 Flash to save on overhead, the financial burden of those errors doesn't just disappear.
No, it is simply transferred onto the workforce.
You essentially transition your highly skilled human employees into cognitive janitors.
Cognitive janitors. I like that.
Right. I mean, think about your own workday. You aren't going home early at 5 p.m. because the AI seamlessly handled your workload. You are staying late at the office, meticulously line editing a report because the machine hallucinated a fake regulatory statute. And you have to catch it before it reaches a client.
And the fatigue is already highly visible across the corporate landscape. A recent Upwork survey revealed a vital statistic. 77% of employees report that AI has actually added to their workload and decreased their overall productivity.
77% feel less productive. That completely shatters the utopian promise of automation.
It really does.
If a hallucinated legal precedent or a piece of broken code slips past an exhausted human reviewer, the resulting damage to a company's reputation or the potential legal liability infinitely outweighs the $3 they saved by not running the prompt through Anthropic's Fable 5.
It completely redefines the metrics we should be paying attention to. The industry obsession with cost per token is a trap.
Yeah.
The only metric that matters now is useful intelligence per dollar.
That makes total sense.
DeepSeek is aggressively pushing into agentic AI software designed to execute tasks autonomously, and they just launched a new DeepSeek harness tool to turn these models into independent agents.
But deploying an autonomous agent built on a foundation that hallucinates 84% of the time introduces a terrifying level of chaos into a business workflow.
Oh, absolutely terrifying.
So, the collision of these two realities, Alibaba's highly capable, cheap, open-weight models and DeepSeek's ultra-cheap, chaotic models, it forces us to look closely at the macro level.
Right.
Because when you combine them with other global releases, they are fundamentally threatening the monopoly Silicon Valley has maintained on artificial intelligence. Let's explore this on a macro level.
We are essentially witnessing the great AI price war.
Yeah.
Up until this specific moment in tech history, the bleeding edge of AI was completely dominated by a very small, very select group of American frontier labs.
Most notably, OpenAI and Anthropic.
Right. They dictated the benchmark standards, and because they had no real peers, they dictated the pricing. If an enterprise wanted elite intelligence, they paid a premium, and they accepted being locked into a closed ecosystem.
Yeah. If you build your company's infrastructure around OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Soul, you are paying $5 for every million input tokens and a hefty $30 for every $1 million output tokens.
Exactly. Anthropic's Fable 5 commands a similar premium, and crucially, you don't own anything.
Right.
You don't get the model weights. You are simply renting access through their API.
But that entire business model is now under siege by a flood of highly competitive Chinese models rewriting the rules of engagement.
Yes. Beyond Alibaba and DeepSeek, you have companies like Moonshot AI entering the fray. They recently released Kimi K3.
Another massive architecture sitting at 2.8 trillion parameters.
And it scores just a fraction of a point below GPT 5.6 also in Fable 5 on real-world application benchmarks. But Moonshot AI is offering Kimi K3 for just $3 per $1 million input tokens and $15 for output.
And, like Alibaba, it is an open-weight release. This shift feels historically significant.
It really does.
This feels like the moment computing went from massive, expensive IBM mainframes that only giant corporations could afford to personal computers sitting on everyone's desks. We are watching the decentralization of elite compute.
The industry is waking up to the reality that absolute raw power at the extreme high end is no longer the definitive selling point.
Right.
If a developer can capture 95% of the capability of an American frontier model for a fraction of the price, and they can download the actual weights to run on their own local hardware.
The financial incentive is overwhelmingly in favor of the open model.
Exactly. But the financial incentive is only half the story. There is a massive geopolitical advantage driving the adoption of these open-weight models.
Yeah, this isn't just a price war. It is a war for infrastructure control.
Exactly the point. DeepSeek's V4 Flash is MIT licensed. Alibaba's Qwen 3.8 Max will have open weights available next week. Moonshot's Kimi K3 is open weight.
So this means a developer sitting in India, a startup scaling in Europe, or a mid-sized logistics firm right here in California can download the model, fine-tune it with their highly sensitive proprietary data, and run it on private air-gapped servers.
Yes. They completely sever their reliance on pinging a US-based API.
They achieve total digital sovereignty.
Right. They are no longer subjected to the data retention policies of an American tech giant, and more importantly, they insulate themselves from the volatility of US export controls.
And those export controls are creating massive friction points for global supply chains. We saw this recently with Anthropic's Fable 5.
Yeah, it had to be pulled offline for 3 entire weeks due to sudden export control enforcement by the Department of Commerce.
And when OpenAI was ready to launch GPT 5.6 Solace, the rollout was frozen for 2 weeks while it underwent vetting by the U.S. government.
Right. So put yourself in the shoes of a CEO whose entire customer service infrastructure or data analytics pipeline relies on one of those American APIs.
Yeah, it's a huge risk.
If Washington decides to change a regulatory framework overnight, your core business operations could go dark. That level of supply chain vulnerability is unacceptable for enterprise risk management.
So when entities like Alibaba or Moonshot offer a highly capable alternative that you can download and own outright, the transition away from Silicon Valley becomes a matter of operational survival, not just cost savings.
It is a profound democratization of the technology. Power is being stripped from a handful of centralized servers in Silicon Valley and distributed globally.
But it leaves us navigating an incredibly complex new reality. You have vastly powerful tools becoming accessible commodities, but as the DeepSeek 84% hallucination rate proves, the market is also being flooded with unreliable noise that human workers are forced to manage.
Yeah, it challenges every business leader to confront their actual motivations. Are you integrating AI to genuinely augment your workforce's capabilities, or are you just chasing a cheaper invoice while secretly shifting the cognitive burden onto your already exhausted employees?
Before we wrap up, a quick thanks to Old Glory, an iconic music and sports fan merch store. Perfect for the techie in your life. Use promo code SNARFL for 15% off at oldglory.com.
So, pulling all these threads together, the software landscape you operate in today has fundamentally fractured.
Yeah, we've explored how Alibaba is deploying massive 2.4 trillion parameter models like Qwen 3.8 Max directly into professional workflows, capable of executing 16-day autonomous coding loops without human intervention.
And we've also unpacked the severe hidden costs of the race to the bottom with DeepSeek's V4 Flash.
Right, a model that drops the price by a factor of 105, but brings an 84% hallucination rate with it, serving as a harsh reminder that cheap AI often functions merely as a generator of more work for human employees.
Woven through all of this is the great AI price war. The unquestioned dominance of closed, premium American labs like OpenAI and Anthropic is actively being dismantled by open-weight, globally accessible models.
It's a paradigm shift that democratizes access, bypasses government export controls, and permanently alters the fundamental economics of the digital tools you rely on.
It leaves us with a fascinating, perhaps unsettling reality to mull over.
Yeah, as these models continue to drop in price until raw intelligence becomes essentially a free, ubiquitous commodity built into everything we touch, where does the actual value lie?
Exactly.
If the machine can generate endless amounts of data for pennies, perhaps the most valuable asset in the workplace of tomorrow won't be the AI at all. Perhaps your value and your job security will rely entirely on your uniquely human ability to critically think, verify, manage, and curate the endless stream of machine-generated content.
Because when the tool becomes infinitely cheap, the human judgment required to wield it safely becomes the only thing that is truly priceless.
We're here to help at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.